Hello, Dawgpound South campers. This is the Cleveland Browns Dawgpound South podcast, part of the Fanatical Elves Network, part of the Fans First Sports Network. I'm your host, Steve Gill, coming to you from Western North Carolina. Had to take a little quick trip, as you saw probably Thursday night and Wednesday night. This is where I am, just visiting family. So, schedule's been released. I just did an article for Fans for Sports Network on my thoughts on the 2024 Cleveland Browns schedule. I don't give win-loss predictions. I did that for years, and then they had a terrible season, so I quit doing it. Yeah, I know it's silly. I consider it bad karma, but I'm very superstitious, like most NFL fans, and especially most Browns fans. You know what I mean. You wear the same thing on game day. If they win, you wear the same thing on game day. If you get rid of whatever you were wearing and never wear it again when they play. So I understand how that goes. But I don't do that. I just gave my thoughts. Just a quick recap of my article. If they're healthy going into the season, and of course, all eyes are going to be on Deshaun Watson. I don't anticipate Nick Chubb being on the active roster. If he's on the PUP list, that's a victory. If he is ready for the season, that would be amazing, but that would be so Nick Chubb. But if Deshaun Watson's ready, they get through training camp and preseason with no major injuries. First part of the schedule sets up really nice for them to take advantage of it and to kind of get ahead of the game. I'll just put it that way. Yeah, I know there's 3 road games and 3 home, followed by 3 home games, and the Browns are one of 3 teams that happened to. The other 2 are the Bears and the Vikings this year. But if you look at that 3 road games, the toughest one is at the Eagles, and then you got 3 straight at home, and you're playing 2 divisional rivals at home right out of the gate, comparatively speaking to the other AFC North teams. I think Pittsburgh doesn't play their first AFC North opponent until week 11. So, and then you go right into the bye at week 10. Perfect time for a bye. Perfect. Middle of the season. If Nick Chubb goes on the PUP list and then he's comes off of it, he's got to stay on it for 4 weeks. They take it easy with him. He could be ready for week 7 against the Bengals for the beginning of that three-game homestand. And that would be fantastic. How charged up would Cleveland Browns fans to see Nick Chubb running on the field against the Bengals? And how great would that be just to get those 3 games, all 3 home games, so no travel, and then to get a bye week? That would be fantastic. Now, second half of the season, last 8 games, 4 primetime games, 4 divisional games. Then you throw in a game against the Chiefs. That'll define the Browns season right there, those last 8 games. A lot of people have talked about the 2 Thursday night games and how they're kind of like a mini bye. There's good and bad with a Thursday night game. Sure, you get like mini buys. After the Steeler game in week 12, you go 11 games before you play the Broncos on Monday Night Football in week 13. And then the other Thursday night game, you've got the Bengals week 16. Then you go another 10 days before you play the Dolphins on Sunday Night Football. The problem with these mini buys and these 2 Thursday night games is the week before. You go to the Saints, and then you've got 4 days to travel back to Cleveland to play the Steelers, and then the other ones you host the Chiefs, and then you got 4 days to get to Cincinnati and play the Bengals. So there's good and bad with the Thursday night mini buys. But all in all, I think it's a positive schedule. I know it's been rated as the league's toughest, namely because their opponents have a 547 winning percentage, which is tops in the league, followed by the Ravens. So that does not surprise me that a lot of people might downplay the Browns, but you never know until the season starts in September how how your how your schedule is going to work out. Last year, after 8 games, if you had said that they were going to be 5-3 after all the problems they had, all the quarterback problem injuries and losing Chubb and losing Conklin, I would have been amazed. So I never look at those strength of schedule. I never look at the power rankings. Sure, it's nice, but what this schedule basically tells me is the NFL ignored the gamblers because the gamblers had us at 8.5 wins. And this tells me that the NFL thinks the Browns will be a little bit better because of the primetime games late in the season and the potential to flex. So let's take a quick break and we'll come back and talk about off-season training. All right, so schedule done. So now we move on to phase 3 of the OTAs. There's still no live tackling, no live contact. I mean, no aggressive live tackling, stuff like that. But they can go 7-on-7, 9-on-9, 11-on-11. So you're going to start to see a little formation of Ken Dorsey's offense. Yes, I said Ken Dorsey's offense. I am fully convinced of watching things and listening to interviews that Kevin Stefanski is going to stack and let Dorsey call plays. I know the Cleveland media is obsessed with this. To me, it doesn't make any difference. Kevin Stefanski was hired to be a play caller, blah, blah, blah. But I think he's going to finally step back. He's got the defensive coordinator that he can trust. He's just going to let Jim Schwartz do whatever Jim Schwartz wants to do because he trusts whatever Jim Schwartz wants to do. And I don't blame him. I do too. And every Browns fan should. So now he's going to trust Ken Dorsey to do this. And I'm fully aboard with it. Like I said, when he was the quarterback coach of Carolina, Cam Newton won the MVP. They went 15-1 and they went to the Super Bowl and they were second in the league in rushing. So I am fully convinced that Ken Dorsey will do a great job. So we're going to see just a touch of a few things. But the most important videos you're going to see this week on, let's see, it starts Tuesday, May 21st and ends Thursday, May 23rd. So the beat writers will all be out there with their camera phones, and every eye is going to be on Deshaun Watson to see how much he throws. I don't expect a lot of throwing. I expect light tossing. Also, I'd like to see how DTR is. But the most important thing that I think everybody's ignoring behind the Deshaun Watson injury is how are our tackles doing? How is Jed Wills doing? How is Jack Conklin doing? How is DeJuan Jones doing? That's what I'm going to be watching in these videos. I want to see how those guys are doing because, frankly, they're very important. So then the next OTAs of phase 3 is May 28th through May 30th. And then you have your mandatory minicamp June 11th through June 13th. And then they're off until they all meet up at the Greenbrier in July. So the only other thing, let's touch on the preseason schedule. It really doesn't make much of a difference, but I like talking about it because Cleveland media will obsess about a few things prior to the preseason games. They start off August 10th against Green Bay. I don't expect to see Myles Garrett. I don't expect to see Amari Cooper. I don't expect to see key starters playing. So just get that set in your mind now. If Deshaun Watson is healthy enough to throw, I do expect to see him throw a little bit. Second one, 8-17 with the Vikings, also at home. They're also going to scrimmage, so that tells me no starters during the preseason game because that's what Kevin Stefanski does. He'll scrimmage with his starters and then put his backups in. And then the oddity of the preseason, August 24th at Seattle, 10 o'clock Eastern time start. The other two games start at 4:25 in the afternoon Eastern time. That's a pretty late game. Wow. Will I stay up and watch it? Probably not. I'll probably tune in and catch the replay of it. Last year in Kansas City, he did put the starters in, minus Myles Garrett and Nick Chubb, for the first quarter at Kansas City. So I expect him to do the same thing. I really do. They got to get this new offense working. You're not going to see a lot of offense. You're not going to see a lot of tricks on defense. You're just going to see bland stuff. But you got to get them in there. Got to get the reps. So that's what I expect there. So that should do it for today. Oh, contract extensions. Everybody still, sorry, I moved my table. Contract extensions. I still expect them to get Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry's done this summer. The only other one, well, we're waiting on to see if they're going to extend Amari Cooper. I'm hearing nothing on that. I don't know what's going on. They're keeping that extremely hush-hush. The restructure of Deshaun Watson, right now, frankly, they don't need to do it. They've got the money. They've still got about $13.5 million in cap space. I was always a proponent of let it reset this year and then do it again next year. Plus, you got to make sure he's healthy enough. Plus, that shoulder, it's a unique type of injury. And so you got to make sure he's healthy to play. So they might wait on doing the restructure. And the only other extension that's kind of a mystery is JOK. Now, they like to do extensions. They used to like to do extensions right before training camp. They did Garrett. They did Nick Chubb's first one. It's weird this is a weird situation with JOK because he's a linebacker and they don't put a lot of money into linebacking. So this would be a first for Andrew Berry, but I'm fully convinced that they will sign him to a contract extension. I don't know if it'll come this summer or if it'll come during the season. Remember, Grant Delpit got extended on December 10th of last year. They'd seen enough of him the previous year and that year to be convinced that they could give him a contract extension. So maybe they just, he had a great year last year. JOK did. Previous couple of years, injuries and not so great. So maybe they're doing the same thing they did with Grant Delpit. The one thing about this front office you can almost count on is once they realize they've got a good thing on timing or contracts, they do the same thing. So they're repetitive to that point. So I am convinced that if it doesn't get done this summer, it'll be done somewhere late in the season. So that's it from today from Western North Carolina. This has been the Cleveland Browns Dawgpound South podcast, part of the Fanatical Elves Network, part of the Fans First Sports Network. I want to thank you for watching, listening, and following us here at the Fanatical Elves Network. Follow all our contributors. We all have great shows. And like I say every week, we're Browns fans like you. So everybody have a great day and go Browns.